Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here amongst the vibrationally aware.
Indeed.
I like to make comparisons between different spiritual beliefs and kind of come to the conclusion that we all kind of believe the same thing, just in different ways.
And the common denominator is what?
Ask and you shall receive, for one thing.
But what we're getting at is, and we're going to interrupt only briefly,
Okay.
is that there are a lot of different ways to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
But the common denominator in all of those different ways, no matter what it is something about the way that you're approaching is appealing to your logic in a way that brings you to a place of believing. Because if you want something and you believe it, now there's no vibrational difference. So it really doesn't matter what you want or what you believe. If you want it and believe it, then the vibrational alignment of it makes way for the manifestation of it. And that's why it's sort of not of a great deal of value to spend too much time trying to point out the errors of other people's process.
Oh yes, I don't really look at it as errors, but as far as I've read information about the ego versus the spirit, so to speak, and my analogy is the ego the physical part and the spirit the non-physical part that we talk about.
We have a question for you.
Okay.
We're really bad at interrupting.
Okay, good.
But when things start going south, we want to drag them back into alignment.
Okay.
And so we're just going to drop a sort of big bomb on the subject of ego and say to you, did you hear us earlier saying that we're standing in the vortex?
Yes.
And Esther is saying, Abraham, come over here and comfort me. And we say, we will maintain the frequency of that which you are. And if you wish to join us, come on in. Yes. Have you ever heard a more egotistical statement in all of your life?
Well,
we stand in the rightness of all that you have become. And we will deviate from that rightness, not an iota, not a particle, not a frequency, not anything. We will stand in the fullness of who you are. And if you are to be in vibrational alignment with that which we are, then you got to come to where we are. We'd call that, in every sense of what humans call egotistical. Because by ego, we mean focus. We mean understanding, perspective, and holding the perspective deliberately. That's the way we would define ego. Everybody that uses it means something different about it. But you get what we mean?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And further, you came forth into this physical body with an enormous, terrific determination to focus. Not one of you said, I'll come and be a puppet. Every one of you said, I'll come forth and I'll sift and sort and I will decide, thought by thought, experience by experience, conversation by conversation, what I most want, what would feel better to me. I will hold the frequency of that and manifestation will ensue. Not one of you said, I'll go forth and follow someone else's lead. You all said, I'll come forth and follow my bliss. I'll follow my inclination. Every one of you said that. That's a very powerful focus. You came with a personality and an ego because you are a creator. In other words, when we say to you, you hold the power that creates worlds in your focus, we think that's ego. But a lot of times when people are criticizing the idea of ego, it's because, and we would agree with this, when you stand outside your alignment and then you use your sheer willpower to try to make things happen, affirming, demanding, a lot of times people will call that egotistical. Yeah. And we don't call that egotistical. We call it out of the vortex.
Yeah, that's where I was going. It seems like that prevented us from getting into the vortex, retaining beliefs that aren't to our advantage, negative beliefs.
Yes, but to say that my ego only focuses on things that are not to my advantage is not accurate.
Yes.
In other words, do you really divide your ego in half? And sometimes you focus it out of the vortex, and so you call it egotistical. And sometimes you focus it in the vortex, so you call it spiritual. Let's call it focus, out and in, out and in, out and in. Let's call it guidance. And let's talk about the true knowledge of who you are. In other words, here's a really good way to look at this. Do you know why you ever experience negative emotion? because you're focused in a way that your inner being will not focus. Your stubborn, determined, focused, egotistical inner being who will not deviate from its knowledge of your power, of your brilliance, of your goodness, of your value, of your worthiness, will not deviate from it. And when you do, you feel the separation. You see?
Yes.
Don't you just love knowing that?
Yeah.
Don't you love knowing that? So this source energy part of you holding steady to who you really are, you see, and you got a choice. You can use your ego to line up with it, or you can use your ego to not line up with it. That would be like saying, I have eyes, and sometimes I see things I don't want to see. I should poke out my eyes. I should extinguish my eyes. One time I tasted something that was so nasty, I spit it out. I should not have taste buds. And we say, just use your focus, use your ego, use your ability to perceive in a way that serves you.
Yes. Okay.
Helpful?
Yes, very.
Enough? No.
Well, in personal relationships, there's people that come into your life and it seems like they hook up with you vibrationally for a while and they fall off.
Why do they come?
I guess to help our expansion.
True enough, but why do they come? Why do the specific people come? They are a manifestation of your vibration.
Okay.
Every time. So they come as evidence of what you're doing vibrationally.
Okay.
So you could say, well, they come to show me what I'm doing, or they come for the fun, or of course, all of those reasons are accurate. But why do they come? They came because I summoned them with my practiced vibration. Continue.
Okay, this is a hot seat, right? I'm sure I didn't ask for some of these people.
Well, that would be wrong.
Maybe that's why they're gone.
You ask for every one of them. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. This is a comment that we hear frequently. Abraham, I don't believe in deliberate creation because I would not have created that because I don't want it. When it got here, I don't want it, so I don't believe I did it. We say, we didn't say you did it on purpose. We didn't say you did it with intelligence and guidance. You did it. You did it because you practiced a vibration, and that vibration got so well practiced. So things get stuck in your vibrational craw. You focus on something, you don't like it, you focus on it, you don't like it, you focus on it, you don't like it, you focus on it, you don't like it. You train yourself into a vibration that brings you more. But the good news is, with all that knowing what you don't want, you're creating a vibrational escrow that is precisely what you do want. If you can make the flip, use your ego to focus in vibrational alignment with who you really are and what you really want.
Yeah, that feels good.
So what happens is every single one of those ones that you're sure you didn't ask for because you didn't want them when they got there, they helped you clarify what you prefer. And then the key is to spend more time thinking about what you prefer. We talked about pivoting. We're talking about knowing what you don't want so you know what you do want. But it's a little tricky, isn't it? We've been teasing about these money and law of attraction cards. Well, actually, they are the most brilliant cards that have ever been assembled on the subject of shifting your vibration relative to money. And they were written from inside the vortex, where all good stuff comes from, as a culmination of everything that you all have been asking for. So we just stood there, looked over what you want to know, understood it completely, and ta-da! So, let's say you're standing outside the vortex and you've decided that you're going to use your ability to focus yourself into alignment.
Okay.
And things have not been going very well for you financially. And so, these cards, even the fact that they exist is annoying.
Got it.
But you bought them anyway with money that you do not have. You look at them and the colors are nice. And you read, I am developing the skill to direct my thoughts. And then you throw that card away. I can have money and freedom too. I'm going to mail that one to my employer. I do not need to have money to attract money. That is very fortunate. I have control over the thoughts I think. I hate these cards. Money isn't everything, but there is no shortage of money or time. Who writes this stuff? I will praise success wherever I see it, and if I ever see it, I surely will. There's not a good card here. Because when you are crossways of the frequency of what you want, then hammering at it, trying to go specifically positive when you have just been feeling specifically negative, makes you dig in defiance and defense and justification and rationalization of where you are. And when you do that, you just practice the vibration that you didn't mean to practice, you see. So bring us around to where you are. In other words, is there something specific that you want to talk about?
Well, several things. Let's talk about in relationships. Why is it that sometimes the less interest you show in someone, the more they're attracted to you, and the less you're...
This is exactly what we're talking about. Because in your lack of interest, you are less specifically pushing them away. In other words, because you already, as in the demonstration of these cards, don't believe in the viability of the relationship. And so the more you try to believe it from not believing it, the more you give off the signal that pushes it away. But when you're not interested, when you really don't care, now you're not offering that signal, and then what you really want begins to flock to you.
Oh, okay.
It's exactly the point that we were making with the cards. The harder you try when you're not in vibrational frequency sync with what you want, the worse it goes. Interesting. When we talk about deliberate creation, feels counterintuitive to some of you, doesn't it? It's like, I should try harder. And we say, no, you should give it up. You should let go. But it comes back to what we were saying earlier, that the process of creation is 3 steps. Ask. You've already done that. Answer. Source has already done that. It is a vibrational done deal. Now your work is to do anything and everything you can to relax into, to allow, to let be, to surrender into. And the harder you try to be specific when you don't have the answers, when you don't know where, when, who, how, where. In other words, when you don't have the answers to that, then the more you hold yourself in the frequency that defies it.
That's why the more I dream and the less I give a heck about it, it seems to come.
Well,
I dream and it's, if I let it go.
But imagine how delicious it could be to want something that isn't painful, to want it even though it hasn't come, to want it with the general knowledge that it will someday be there, and to be satisfied with that general knowledge that it will someday be there until you allow the specifics of it to begin to show themselves to you. So there's a difference between just saying, I don't want those grapes because they're sour anyway.
Yeah.
There's a difference between saying, I don't want it, because the truth of it is, you do want it. You do want it. You can't give up on your dream. You cannot cease to want what you want, but you can choose your vibrational position to it by railing against the absence of it or by surrendering to the presence of it. And what you're talking about is part of that process. In other words, it's part of the letting go of the details of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect words that you've offered. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Something more?
No, that's
Very good.